Neel Kashkari, the president of the Minneapolis Fed, just destroyed the arguments for a central bank digital currency. This is a huge shock to me because he's always advocated for policies that are anti-American. He was one of the key participants in orchestrating the bailout in the financial crisis. He then got a job back on Wall Street after that. He came from Wall Street before, so he's always been at the helm of pushing things that are good for him, good for the Treasury, good for the Fed, but not good for Americans. And this was true in 2020 as well, when he kept on pushing for more and more money printing, more and more easing, despite the fact that everybody who knew what was going on knew it was going to result in inflation. He said, no, it won't result in inflation. But we have to give credit where credit is due, because this is the last thing that I expected to come out of his mouth. He absolutely destroyed the arguments for why America would ever need or ever want a central bank digital currency. We're going to jump into why. Ready? Let's dive in. These are crazy times in the market with unexpected moves, with unexpected futures, hyperinflation on one side, deflationary death spiral on the other. More important than ever to know how to bulletproof your portfolio so that you are not vulnerable to these crazy collapses. 10% off on my portfolio allocation course right now for Labor Day. Link is in the description below. Only lasts through Labor Day, so if you're on the fence, get it now, 10% off. Link is in the description below. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that Neel Kashkari is one of those people that I just cannot stand. And no, it's not just because of those beady little eyes and the way that it looks like he's staring straight through your soul. No, it's because he's participated in something that Nassim Taleb calls the Bob Rubin trade. He first worked at Goldman, and then from there, he went to the Treasury. He followed Paulson to the Treasury. He was there during the great financial crisis, and he was one of the key people pushing for the bailout, saying we need more money. We need to bail out Wall Street even more to help save American families. And they did not go to the full extent of what he was pushing for, although he was an advocate for doing more of what they eventually did. After that, in 2009, you can see that he was named a managing director at the investment firm PIMCO, in charge of new investment initiatives. So really great, right? You love this deal. Somebody from Wall Street goes to work for the government at the Treasury or at the Federal Reserve, pushes for things that are good for Wall Street, and then they're lined up with a nice cush job afterwards. Happens all the time. Happened with him too. After that, in about 2016, he joined the Federal Reserve. He's the Minneapolis Fed president now. He was one of the key voices pushing for more easing, more money printing, more lower interest rates for longer, saying, no, there's no way it's going to result in higher inflation. And so pretty much his entire record has been about doing things, advocating for things that I think are at the wrong end of the spectrum here that would result in the wrong outcomes. And so when it comes to a central bank digital currency, I would expect that somebody like Neel Kashkari would be way over the fence and say, we need this tomorrow. We cannot wait for this. This would give us the ability to do everything we need to do to help out Americans. But that is not the case, and I am so thankful, so happy for it. He recently was giving a speech at the Columbia Law School. It was about a month ago here, and I'm going to show you this clip about what he says about central bank digital currencies, because man, it is powerful.
I keep asking anybody at the Fed or outside of the Fed to explain to me what problem this is solving. I can send anybody in this room $5 with Venmo right now. Right? No, seriously. So what is it that a CBDC could do that Venmo can't do? And all I get is a bunch of hand waving. I get a bunch, well, maybe it's better for financial inclusion. Maybe it's better for cross-border remittances. Maybe. Is there any evidence that it is? And they say, well, what about China? China's doing it. Well, I can see why China would do it. If they want to monitor every one of your transactions, you could do that with the central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. If you want to impose negative interest rates, you could do that with the central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. And if you want to directly tax customer accounts, you could do that with the central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. So I get why China would be interested. Why would the American people be for that?
Man, he just absolutely nails this on the head here, because from a practical standpoint, from being able to do business, from being able to send money, pay for things, receive money, a central bank digital currency does not provide any additional utility compared to the current day technological solutions that we have for our monetary system, for our financial system. When you think about it, what do you have to do day in and day out? What do companies have to do day in and day out? We just have to send money and receive money. For individuals, when you go out to dinner and you split the check, when you go to work and you get your paycheck, when you want to wire somebody money because you're buying something like a house, down payment, whatever it is, we can do all of that today. Modern technology has allowed us to use this old archaic dollar system that we have to advance that a little bit further to meet the needs of today. Yes, some current crypto applications, some current software, some other things outside of the dollar are a little bit better in terms of speed, in terms of efficiency, in terms of the speed of settlement and security. But for the most part, the system that we have works pretty well. And so when he asks the question, what can you do with a CBDC that you can't do with Venmo? That is the question to be asking. Because for most people, you would not be able to do anything that you want with a CBDC that you can't do with current day solutions with the dollar. And then he points out perfectly what can be done with a CBDC that cannot be done with current solutions. And it's basically pure tyranny. Now, when the CBDC is pushed and when they start rolling it out, they are not going to frame it this way. They're not going to say, hey, this will give us the tools for pure tyranny. What they're going to say is, hey, you're in pain. The market's been falling for a year and a half. You've lost your job. You're in pain. You can't afford life. So we're going to give you some money. We're going to give you $1,000 a month. We're going to give you $2,000 a month. But what they're going to say is that we cannot do this through our current system. They're going to say we tried stimulus checks back in 2020 and it was a mess. The IRS just couldn't handle it. And so in order to do this more efficiently, just download our Fed wallet. Download this app and you'll get $1,000 a month. Every person, every individual. If you've got a family of 4, you all get $1,000. So you get $4,000 a month. Whatever the amount is. But the key is you got to download our app. So you might be asking, well, why? Why does it have to go to that new system? And it's because the way a CBDC works is it gets around the banking system. Right now, you have an account with your bank. And so when the federal government sends you checks through the IRS, the stimulus checks, that goes into a bank account. When you pay the government, it goes from a bank account to the government's bank account. And so everybody has a bank account. And so you're dealing with a somewhat decentralized system. It's not purely decentralized, but it is somewhat decentralized. So all of your transaction data, that's collected and kept by your bank. It's not collected by a central server. The CBDC would get around all of that, and essentially you'd have one bank that has all the accounts for every individual and every organization and every business. You'd have one bank, the central bank, that has an account for everybody. So all the transaction data, all the control over the accounts, all of the access to seeing where all the money flows and then being able to perform actions on those accounts is under the control of one entity, the central bank, the Federal Reserve. And so as they roll this out, they're going to say, hey, here's your $1,000 a month if you open an account with the Fed, if you open up your app with the Fed, and then you can use that anywhere else that also has an account with the Fed, like a business. So a business is going to say, well, we want to be able to receive some of those new dollars that are being handed out. So me as a business, I'm going to open up an account at the Fed, because if I don't, I've got all of these people out here, 100 million Americans that are receiving $1,000 a month, and I can't get any of that. So I'm going to go open up a business account with the Fed so that they can spend their money with me. No brainer, right? Because then you're going to receive some more income as business. So in the midst of all this pain, they're going to roll out this plan to save Americans, open up accounts directly at the Fed. Number one, they're going to get access to all the data. Now, if they don't do anything with this data or never look at it and have some sort of unbeatable privacy where they can't actually access it, then in theory, that would be okay. But obviously, that's not what's going to happen. They're going to use that to say, hey, we found out why there was a stock market bubble when we passed out the stimulus checks in 2020, because people use that money to go buy stocks. And so if we find that too many people are using our new CBDC money to go buy stocks, we're just going to cut that off so that there's no bubbles. Or if we find out there are short sellers that are trying to manipulate the stock market, we'll cut that off. If we find out that people are hoarding gas because they're spending more than a certain number of dollars per month on gas, we're going to cut that off. You can't get past $300 or $400 a month on gas. So they'll exercise extreme control over transactions. That is what Neel Kashkari is talking about here. If you have access to all the data and you have control over the accounts, you can credit people's accounts at will, you can debit people's accounts at will, you can stop transactions from taking place, you can cause transactions to take place, you can precisely control where the stimulus hits, where the stimulus is not allowed to hit, and you have full control then over the flow of resources in an economy, because every transaction, half of it is money. So if you can control the money part of the transaction, you can control where the resources go. You can control the labor, you can control the energy, you can control the food. Every single aspect of an economy, you as a central bank having control over all the money can control where those things go. And the biggest danger to this is that it doesn't rely on Congress. It doesn't rely on passing a bill. It doesn't rely on votes. It doesn't rely on somebody who is at risk of getting voted out of office. You don't have to have a 10,000 page bill worth $2 trillion work its way through Congress and you have people try and slip stuff in, and then people eventually find out what's in the bill, and then some of those people maybe are at risk of getting voted out of office. As bad as that system is, there's at least still a little tiny bit of skin in the game there. Doing this means you have a small group of people. A CBDC gives a small group of people 100% complete control, and they don't have to be worried about being voted out of office. They don't have to wait for a giant bill to pass. They don't have to wait for the IRS to be able to scale up its employees to be able to handle all of this. All you have to do with a few keystrokes is do exactly what you want to do to credit or debit or limit or cause transactions for any single account all across the country. It is financial tyranny. And no matter what, I think this is the line that people cannot, should not cross. This is the line that would step us over. This is the one that cannot be crossed. If we as a country allow a CBDC to take hold in America, that is the last straw. There is no coming back from that. The amount of power given to a small group of people will destroy the country. This is the line that we cannot cross. And so that is the message that I think we need to be taking from this. If somebody like Neel Kashkari, somebody who's advocated for more government control, more bailouts, who's been participating in the Bob Rubin trade and benefiting from this corrupt system, if somebody as far as that is saying that the only reason for a CBDC is tyranny, we need to believe him. And no matter what, cannot cross that line. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.